Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business, share them with us so we can all learn together. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. With this, we booked 26 qualified sales and leads within 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn and have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, we have Vince Baiera. He is the owner of HomeHop Property Management and also HomeHop Ohio and HomeHop Cleveland. I'm getting tongue-tied saying that over and over again. HomeHop Ohio and Cleveland, they are real estate investment funds. And Vince provides STR property management and investing programs for high-income earners. So Vince, welcome to the show today. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love to start with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your very first business, but knowing everything you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
I would probably think about the structure of what I was setting up to think through where I thought in 5 to 10 years I needed that structure to reflect for me to have the outcome I wanted. Oftentimes, I think when you don't have that long point, vision, that you set things up today for what you think will work today and not where you think it needs to be positioned for success in the future. And sometimes investment follows structure, success follows structure, but it's getting the structure right. And probably the other thing is just trying to bootstrap as much as you can and be as nimble as you can. So those would probably be the two things I would really try to hammer out first before going too far.
Yeah. Great answers. Here's where my mind automatically goes. For people that maybe they're already established, maybe they've been going for a few years, maybe they're looking to go into business, and that question or the thought that you had around there on, I'd set up the right structure. Some people might be going, that sounds great, Vince, but how do I know what the right structure is for my future? So what's just one or two tips that maybe you've learned along that process to be able to help people even start thinking in the right direction of where to even apply this knowledge?
Well, I think the big thing is using first principles and asking yourself, if I could tear down the business and start over today, what would I do different? Don't overcomplicate it. Would you hire offshore to keep your costs lower? Would you automate certain parts using AI, which everybody can lean into now, the great equalizer? Would you, worry less about investors and worry more about customers? What would you do differently today if you could just start over? And I know people go, well, Vince, I can't start over. I built this whole thing up. It took me years. You expect me to start over? Well, where do you want to be in 2-3 years? You're still going to be 2-3 years older. Might as well be the position you want. So it's very difficult to have that fundamental reset. But I think for most folks, it does help position them well. So if you're starting today, think about, do I want to go into business with certain people? Do I want to give up X amount of my company to raise all this money? Or do I think, hey, if I could just get a little further, I'll have better proof of concept, better this, better that. I can be further out along with more of my company intact. And that's one thing I think so many folks, especially when you're starting a business, think, well, I got to raise money. And it gives you more responsibility. It doesn't necessarily always solve your problems. In fact, it can sometimes make them worse. So again, that's how I would think about starting out.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it as well, because everything that we do in our business is so it is dependent upon the structure that we create with that. And I think you're so right when you said, that, well, Vince, I've built the business up, it's already there. Well, okay. Do you want it to go to the next level or not? Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
like
how long are you going to do something before you make a change and just bite the bullet and say, all right, this next 6 months are going to really suck as I rebuild this. But the other thing, sorry to jump back in here, but the other thing is when I built, so I've built other companies, built them to tens of millions, sold them, whatever. When you build it the second and third time, how much quicker and easier it is. You already know the roadmap, right? It doesn't take as long to do it the second and third time as it does that first one. So just keep that point in mind to the audience.
No, and that's a great point as well. And I think people forget that because they compare it to, oh my gosh, it's taken me this long to get to here. But you're right. When you do, and you're not actually starting over from
No.
scratch, but it goes so much faster. It's
Oh
just,
yeah.
yeah. And everyone that I've ever spoken to that's done that process, or even when I've done it myself, you're so grateful afterwards. You're like, oh my God, why did I not do this years ago? You know?
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, totally, man, totally. Well, I love that you've built businesses and you've sold them and all that. One of the questions that I love to ask is around the challenges we have in business, because I know you know this, but as a business owner, it can be very lonely sometimes. Oftentimes we'll go through challenges, and for whatever reason, we just think, oh gosh, I'm the only person that's ever dealt with this, or it must be something wrong with me, or whatever the case may be. So I like to normalize those, and I'll just chat about challenges because we all have them. So having said that, what's the biggest challenge that you've ever faced in your business, and what's the lesson that you've learned from that?
Um, there's so many challenges. The way I always equate it is, for some people, when five and $10,000 issues arise, it's very stressful. And then you've dealt with enough of those that it's the $50,000 issue that stresses you. Then you raise up and it's the $100,000 issue that stresses you. That's kind of where I'm at in my journey, is like if something's like around that 100K like issue, it starts to kind of weigh on me. The small stuff I've kind of navigated enough that I just know it's going to work itself out. The one thing that I came up with this concept years ago, and it's something that I found that's super helpful to me. Don't worry about any problem until you've had a chance to solve it. So often I would get faced with the dilemma and I start stressing. I start going, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's going to da 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 da. And then I make the call and I go, well, what if we try this, this, and this? And they go, oh, yeah, that'll work. It will solve the problem. And you're like, oh, why did I just fret over this for the last 2 days? I hadn't even had the chance to solve it yet. So I don't typically, I keep myself from worrying about problems until I've had a chance to solve it. And then I'm like, oh, shit, I can't solve this problem. Now I'm a little worried. I'll tell you one of the most stressful times that I had, though. My wife was in the hospital for an extended period while she was pregnant with our boys. Luckily, they were both born healthy. But during that time, it was through COVID, and we were importing containers and of products from overseas for a product of medical equipment that I was selling, and our costs were exorbitant. Import a container went from $4,500 to $25,000. We lost $350,000 that year as a business. It was incredibly stressful. And had somebody come along that day during that time and said, hey, I'll just take this business off your hands for you for free and I'll worry about the rest of it, I would have signed that paper so damn quick. But nobody did, and we got through it and ultimately later sold the business and did okay with it. So definitely some low times, definitely some lonely times, and definitely years where it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Got our ass kicked, and you just keep asking yourself and keep believing yourself, like, how am I going to get through this? And you just keep pushing. But unfortunately, as we know in business, not every business can kind of turn that corner. And again, some of those circumstances are within our control and others are not. So sometimes it's about just, having grace with yourself in the situation and trying to remember that, like, you're doing your best, and just keep trying. And that's the one thing you
Yeah.
can control.
Yeah, man, there's so much we could unpack in that if we had time. I love, I'm very much along that same mindset where what you described is what I call levels. You have the $1,000 level problems, the 5,000 and 10,000, and I always equate it to, it's just a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel like that when it's over stressful times, but it is just a game. And once you pass that $5,000 level, you have them again. It's like, oh, I've done this, I've beat that. It's no big deal. But as you said, you're at the $100,000 level. Well, there's people that have billion-dollar
Oh yeah.
issues,
Yeah. Like, oh, I
that
got
would,
another lawsuit, 150
yeah,
million. And they're
which
like,
would
ah,
blow
whatever.
our minds.
Yeah.
We'd be like,
Oh yeah.
how in the world do you even do? And they're like, oh, it's just another day in the office.
Yeah.
So I think I love that principle and that
Yeah.
concept. And you're one of a very few handful of people I've ever spoken to that kind of looks at life that way. It's very similar to what I do, but it does change everything when you look at it from that perspective. Because you just kind of go, well, I just have to beat this boss level. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Back to Mario days of the old
Yeah, I
school.
know. It's exactly what it is, man. Oh, that's cool. Well, let's say over the next 2 to 3 years of the business, what are your goals? What would you like to achieve?
So, with our property management business, we're currently executing a roll-up strategy where we're looking to acquire and grow through acquisition other short-term rental property management groups. We're seeing great organic growth in the business, so kind of keeping our foot on the gas on both sides of the aisle in terms of growing. The goal is to try to get between 300 and 500 rentals in the next 2 to 3 years. And we're already well positioned, I think, to accomplish that. Just got to keep working the plan and being diligent and showing up every day. Um, we also have some other plans in terms of some of our investment, strategies with funds that we hope to raise and go execute and buy more properties ourselves. So, yeah, just continuing to kind of grow those businesses, hoping to be, you know, 3 to 4x over the next 2 to 3 years, and then just keep growing our team. So it's been fun. It's been a journey. Not everything has went smooth. Not every customer has stayed with us. It's just part of what we do in our industry, specifically with short-term rentals. It's cyclical. You're dealing with guests. It's a hospitality business. Not every review is a 5-star review, right? So it's about constant, um, remodeling and refining the business. And, we talked about those levels earlier, and, the same business structure, which is where I started the conversation. The same structure that gets you to 1 million or 5 million isn't going to be the same one that gets you to 20 or 25, and isn't going to be the same one that gets you to 50. Every time you go up those levels, you almost have to look through the system and start with first principles and say, what is our bottleneck? What do we need to change and fix to unlock that door and to go to that next level and to basically restart and rebuild your business in that at least specific area? And that's just something that everybody needs to be aware of. And I've worked at $300 million companies, and I've, built startups and, kind of everything in between. And it's just about getting the structure right and thinking through first principles, because you're always going to have to keep reinventing your business if you want to keep growing.
Yeah, love that. Such a good thing. Absolutely. One last question, I kind of going back a little bit to what you were saying with shipping container costs, and you lost 350K, all of that. Because going back to those first principles and things, what was the key thing that got you through that?
Um, I, you know, I had no other option. If you've ever read the book or heard the concept, burn the boats, where
Yeah.
you're like, there is no other way. It's either I'm dying on that hill, or that's it, or I'm winning. That's the only option, right? There's no plan B, period. Um, I had debt to investors that they had loaned to the business that I felt incredibly, obligated to get through. I personally didn't want to mortgage my house or do all this other stuff to get through it. In short, it was like I just had to keep selling and sell my way out of that hole. And luckily, the investors were really kind and gracious and weren't going, hey, give me money back, right? They were like, just keep working on the business. I think that was probably kind of what did it. Sometimes, again, when you have more money, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem. You just throw good money after bad. Whereas sometimes when you're, at your back's against the wall, it's like there is no other option. It's like roll up your sleeves and get to work. And
Yeah.
so again, it didn't mean that every year after that we were incredibly profitable, but at least we stabilized, costs came down, we were able to sell, look back at the structure and go, what do we need to do different? We had a COO who was stateside, who was handling the operations, who did a good job, but I was paying him $85,000 when it was all said and done. Well, that job I shipped overseas and paid somebody, 15,000. You just had to look at the business and say, like, objectively, what do I need to do differently? Take my emotion out of it, take the fear out of it, and just say, like, if I was starting over again, would I hire somebody stateside to do this job of entering orders and sending invoices for 80 grand when it's really an administrative job that can be done by a lot of people? So I think that was, for me, probably the only thing. And then, my wife in the hospital, having kids on the way, it scares the shit out of you because you realize, like, I got other mouths to feed, And so, yeah, those are probably the things. And there's a quote that I heard a long time ago. It says, adversity makes some people break and others break records. And it kind of just means when your back's against the wall, like, are you going to fold or are you going to fight? And in that instance, of course, we just kept battling. So it was a journey, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, and I think the amazing thing is this: you passed the level, you got through it, and you just. I knew your answer would be you just showed up every day because that's the way you get through it. But sometimes people just need to hear it. It's like there's no magic; you just keep showing up.
Yeah.
So I love that, Vince. So from where you are to where you are now, and looking to 3 to 4x over the next several years, absolutely amazing. Well, for people that are wanting to get in contact with you and learn a little bit more about what you do and maybe how you can help them, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Just LinkedIn. My I'm very easy to find with that Italian last name, 4 vowels out of 6 letters. So just search me on LinkedIn. You'll see me, and happy to connect with the group. And if I can help them in any way, try to.
Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone to connect with Vince on LinkedIn if you feel he can help you out in any way, or just curious about what he's doing in property and what you might be able to learn or invest in or anything like that with him as well. So Vince, thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their idle prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn, have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.